brought up something like that already. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were really busy. Well, you definitely requested.
That's gonna be at our
But you are not.
That's right on 160.
The other ones, if you can read through the lines, so you can go along.
So they're gonna say,
Well, it's congratulations, and it's a good club for the parish.
oh, I didn't hear that about
So when does Dr. Wilson come in? They're off or
Get our commissioners seated so that we can get these underway. The meeting of the Caddo Parish Commission work session for February 6, 2022 at 3:30 is now convened. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins. Here. Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell,
Here.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Gage Watts, Commissioner Cochran.
Here.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
All right, you have 8 of 12 commission members present. That does constitute a quorum.
Okay, I would like to ask Commissioner Carlton if he would give us a word of invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Young. Would you please stand?
All minds being clear, let us pray. Today, my Heavenly Father, once again, we come thanking you for this opportunity to be about your business, my Heavenly Father. May everything that we do here be pleasant and to glorify you. Bless each and every one that's here on this council, those that are in this audience as well. These are many blessings we ask in thy Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please render the appropriate salute for you and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Carlton, for that word of invocation, and Commissioner Young for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we're down to
Citizens
agenda
forum?
additions. Mr. Clerk?
I'm not aware of any agenda additions today, unless you have any.
No, we don't.
Okay, would you like to move forward to citizens' comments?
Yes, sir, if you would.
Okay, Citizens who want to address the commission on any issue other than zoning are asked to fill out a comment card. Those are located in the chamber foyer and can be turned into my left here in this box. And we have received some already. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes. And the comments that have been received already have been given to the president.
Thank you. The first citizen up would be Ms. John Glover to speak on ordinance 6306 of 2023 and 6307 of 2023. Ms. Glover, state your name, please.
Good evening. John Glover, 9100 Walker Road, apartment 217, Shreveport 71118. As I always do, looking over the agenda for today's work session, there quite often I always find something to catch my attention. Well, such caught my attention today, or even when I started a couple of days ago. Ordinance number 6306 of 2023. Now, if I'm not mistaken, NGOs applications are due in June, the previous year, to be able to get funding for the next calendar year. The question I would ask in this instance is why are we dealing with CJ Ministries in February if his application was submitted timely last year in June? Understanding that there were some dollars left over from the allocation that he was given last year, some $1,800, I believe. Now we're asking for an additional $8,600. Now, another thing I wanted to look at was the language of that legislation or his application said that they're going to be addressing women and children with regards to education and social services. Now, we have a Caddo Parish school system, and we have plenty of other organizations that are addressing not only education, but social services as well. So my question to the commission is, why are we doing this at all? What is the point and what is the purpose of this? And then I ask, what checks and balances do you all have in place that will safeguard you and me and the constituents who pay these taxes, though they may not have been, or they could have been those American Rescue dollars, but no matter where the dollars came from. I just need to know what it is that's going on here. We see countless of NGOs that bring applications every year. Some of them are overlapping with the same information. I just don't get it. Then, moving from that one to 6307 of 2023, the gardens. To me, the gardens are divisive because all of them are in black communities. No one in a white community needed or wanted a garden? Or even is it really necessary? I'm trying to support that we need to be a united Caddo Parish, not bringing forth things that divides us or that we put so much spotlight on. But we need to do what's best for all of us inclusive. I thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Glover. That takes us to our next citizen, Adele Schafferman. Ms. Schafferman, if you would, state your name and welcome.
My name is Adele Schaeferman, and I live on Corinne Circle, 71106. I'm in District D, I think. I applied for an absentee ballot, and it came back District E. And I called my councilman, and he assured me that, no, you're really supposed to be in District D. And so finally, after about 5 calls, I was able to get the correct absentee ballot. However, my husband wanted to vote in person, and so when he went to vote on the machine, he was in District E. So both of us were enabled to vote for someone else in District E, not our own district. When the ROV was asked about people being put in the wrong districts, he admitted to 8 streets. But he did not mention my street at all, Corinne Circle. So it makes me wonder how many other streets that he did not report on that were possibly, in the wrong district. Furthermore, after my husband voted November the 8th, he got the little card, that said now he was in District D, the correct district. So we thought it was fixed. He went to vote December the 10th, and he was still in District E on the machines. And I know that maybe this is not directly under your purview, but I'm just exposing this to say that there was a lot of mistakes in the last election, and a lot of people feel disenfranchised. And so it's more than just single votes not counting. It's the psychology of people not trusting our elections. So we're all in this together. We want the best parish and the best city we can have. And I'm continuing to contact people, including the Secretary of State, but I'm just bringing it to your attention, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shefferman. Definitely take that into consideration. That takes us to the next citizen, and that will be Ms. Brenda O'Brock. Welcome, Ms. O'Brock.
Thank you.
State your name
I
for the
forgot to
record.
get an agenda. Brenda O'Brock, 248 Lake Point Drive, Shreveport. And I'm here today on all of the discrepancies with the voting. It was a mess. And some of you know about it, but briefly I just want to bring up what happened to Hassett Street. My neighbors on Hassett were temporarily de-annexed from the city of Shreveport. And what this means is at that time of de-annexation that was temporary, they could not vote for mayor or city council in the November 8th election. Then when it was brought to the attention of the powers that be, they received a letter from Dale Sibley with a corrected ballot saying use this corrected ballot and disregard the first ballot. Although some people who voted absentee had already sent the first ballot in. So I don't know if they double dipped in the same, if one person voted twice in that area or not. But anyway, so much confusion, not just on Hassett Street, Red Oak, Corin Circle, as Adele just mentioned, Cresswell Avenue, Timberline. Y'all, it was all over the city. And I don't believe you voted yet on the redistricting, but it is a mess. I am vice president of O'Brock Repair. We have run a successful repair company for over 40 years, so I know a little something about fixing things. This is not fixed, and what bothers me so much are our elected officials saying, let bygones be bygones. This happened, just sweep it under the carpet. Because let me tell you something, some people, yes, some of these discrepancies were fixed, but some people didn't vote in November. So we're going to have a repeat in March on this. And you talking about the stuff hitting the fan when people realize this is not fixed. So what I'm proposing today is that you have a team comb over our voting records, our districts, see if it lines up with the tax assessor's office. That's what a lot of cities do. They make sure that their districts line up with the tax assessor's office. My neighbor, when he realized that he couldn't vote for city council anymore after voting for city council for 40 years, he thought, well, at least I won't have to pay taxes anymore. Then I looked up his address on the tax assessor's office, and no, he's got to pay taxes. He just couldn't vote November 8th. Y'all, this is a mess. And I have all the documentation. I have the letter that was sent to Jerry Sauer, my neighbor, who's voted absentee for probably 40 years. And Dale Sibley tells her in this letter, you are now in district / which means out of parish, and disregard your first ballot, but vote on the second ballot. This is a mess, and it needs to be corrected, and we don't need to find out about it at the next election. We need a team checking this out now.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. O'Brock. That takes us to our next citizen, Mona Proctor. Welcome, Ms. Proctor. If you would, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Mona Proctor. I live at 102 Took Drive, and I'm here about the same thing. I'm a poll worker off of Ellerby Road at the Methodist Church there on Peach Street, and I see it from a whole different standpoint. All day long, from 6 o'clock in the morning until 8 p.m., I had people poking their head out of the booth, unheard of. I can't vote for city councilman in District E. I don't know if you remember, but District E councilman had cancer and stepped down. That councilman was put in by John Bell Edwards. So many of us were looking forward to an opportunity to vote in number 97. We're not the only ones in that district going to the polls in District E. Now, that also, I called friends. I got a lot of buddies that are working at the polls. We're old women, they got nothing better to do. That's how we meet our neighbors, because we no longer sit on the front porch. So I'm calling around, hey, what's going on in District B? She says, we got the same thing. Called people in District G, we got the same thing. People can't vote. We're blocked off, blocked out. To make a long story short, many, it's not just a few, it's not just a couple of streets. There are a great number of us who could not vote for city councilman, whether it was District G, District B, or District E. And now it makes me wonder, okay, what happens in March? Better yet, October the 14th is going to be here real soon. How's that going to affect me when I go to the polls to vote for governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and I could go on and on for a minute because I watch what's going on. Now, granted, that's not just District E, but how's that going to affect me? I'm getting nervous. I'm going to be point blank with you. I'm as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. What else is going to happen? I'm waiting for another shoe to fall. Do you understand how this can affect us? Because if that's what's going on in Caddo Parish, what's going on down there in the rest of the boot? I guess you can see how we might be a little concerned. Thank you very much, each and every one of you, because we keep hearing. Now I'm here with a bunch of people, and we've called ROV, Secretary of State. You've heard us. We're asking questions, and we're not getting pretty answers. So if everybody's pushing the buck down the street, where do we go? Where do we get our questions answered? And where do we get the problem solved? Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for coming to work today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary?
I believe that is, we don't have any additional comments unless you have.
Okay, I think we had a request. To take a couple of agenda items out of order. There's a request for a motion to take agenda items 11.4, 5, and 6 out of order for Mr. Floyd to give us an explanation. Second. Oh, I'm sorry. A motion by Commissioner Gage Watts and seconded by Commissioner Epperson. We can vote.
And this is the motion to go out of order to address these items. All right, and that motion passes with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. So that takes us to the first one of those items is number 6308 of 2023. And just for your reference, where is Mr. Floyd?
Floyd is
Yes,
right
okay.
there.
He was,
Would you come up, Mr. Floyd? I would assume. State your name for the records, please.
Thank you very much. Cedric Floyd, President of Data Center LLC, and thank you very much. Our marathon is almost at the end. I can see the finish line. before you today, you have 3 ordinances that will be introduced to move to your February the 23rd meeting. I wanted to answer any questions, so we had a chance to update all the files, and it's up on the website, verified with your website department. And the next event, we're going to have a community engagement meeting Wednesday at 4 o'clock to give the Caddo Parish residents an opportunity to ask questions. We did this, I think, July 26, 27, and time for input for us to receive it, and if any changes need to take place between now and February 23rd, I'll come back to the commission and let you know, but to get feedback. And I like that we are doing it well in advance of the vote, because the day of a public hearing to vote, you're really not changing anything. We have a chance to take the input from the public and to look at our plan. If we could change, modify, let's do it. So what's proposed is I guess the latest and greatest version of each plan that's being considered. Plan A-1, I call it the alternate plan, and Plan AA. And that's 6308, 6309, and 6310. Like I said, look, also what we have done, we have put a map book of each district. Besides the map of all 12 districts, if you press district map, each individual district for each plan will pop up individually with the street, so you get a chance to see every individual district in all 3 plans. And also, we got a precinct changes telling you what changes were done from what district to the next district as to where it sits. So thank you for the opportunity for Data Center to perform redistricting services. And one thing I always say, I look forward to serving you 10 years from now. And like I say, we'll be here Wednesday at 4 o'clock for the community engagement meeting, and hopefully I'll see you there. But anyway, thank you very much for giving us a chance, and just wanted to update everybody on the 3 ordinances that's going to be reviewed today and move towards your February 23rd meeting. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Where we at? Y'all decided in December, I guess, this procedure of a previous meeting that it would be here today, we would have a public hearing and a final vote on February 23rd. So we just taking those steps forward. Okay?
Okay, if any commissioner has a question before we make a motion to move all 3 of them to the 23rd.
Yes.
You can, okay. All right, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I was looking at I'm just trying to make sure that we are on par. Something's going on with the map, and so we don't have to necessarily address it now, but the map is not coming up on any of the plans. So I don't know if that's how it was scanned in, but all I can see is the edge of it. I don't know
Commissioner
if
Jackson, are
anybody-
you having that problem on all 3 or just one of them?
All of them.
Okay.
So it may be just the way it was scanned in, but just, FYI, whenever we get a chance.
Yeah, and also, it's up on your website.
Yeah, it's likely the system that uploads the attachments.
Fine.
It's
Just
probably
wanted to let y'all
probably
know.
formatting them for the website and not for your page.
Right. I
It
just
also-
wanted for a notice, I know it's on the website, but just for agenda notice, just make sure we.
And let me just say
We'll
this,
correct
Commissioner
that.
Jackson, you'll have another planning meeting.
Yo, it's good.
Okay, no problem. I was gonna say, you can have another planning meeting prior to your meeting on February 23rd, I guess the Monday or so before then. So in terms of any review, right. So
It's
this is
all
not the
good.
only plan. Yes, sir. Okay, good.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Young, Commissioner
I'm
Jackson,
good.
finished?
Thank you.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Floyd, I didn't remember the precinct number 10 that we talked about.
Yes.
Is it reflected on one of these items?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
On AA, yes, it is.
Okay. It looks like, let me see, I'm looking at AA on the map now. I just wanted to make sure that the right form is.
And you look at precinct changes, it'll reflect, yeah. Mhm.
So let's see, is that 11.4 on our agenda? Plan
I think
A1, or is it Plan AA under
I think the ordinance is
additions, if you look at District 4, it says additions precinct 10.
Well, let me just say this, it was several versions, and I'll get that straight,
so
you know, in terms of, yeah.
You'll get
yeah.
that squared away before we vote.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I mean, it should be. I sent it, so I'm not uploading, but it should be in terms of that version. I got my iPhone. I could send it. Yeah.
Okay, double check for me.
Okay.
Because it looks like it hasn't been changed on these forms yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Because
you.
like I say, it was some work to get everything loaded.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could. I got the paper copy of it, so I could put that into the record. I have that
Okay.
in terms of that.
That's fine. I just wanted to bring it back to your
Let me
attention.
just say it, and we'll get that out the way. Okay. Wait a second.
Okay.
Chairman. Yes, sir.
We have a little interlude. Could we make a suggestion to the, I think most of the people that came and spoke in reference to those districts was city council, and maybe our staff can direct them in the right place to go and get some questions answered.
Yeah, as long as we're not answering the citizen directly, you can make a comment in
Right,
terms
I'll
of
just ask
commission.
the staff might want to meet with them, out in the foyer.
Okay.
Because it feels as though they're concerned relative to the city council election.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that. Let us do that. We're making a comment that these were city council districts, although the register of voters office fall under us. But it's the city council district. It's my understanding when they did their redistricting, there were some issues, and that's probably what you're seeing. And I'm sure that they are working those things out, or should be working them out. But no, we do not
Okay.
deal with the
Well-
city council district.
If you don't mind, this is I guess, the official map, and that was sent. As you can see, precinct 10, I'm gonna leave it to Jeff in terms of that is out. That's just, here, Jeff, you can keep this version. And also the backup to it, so you know it's in.
Thank you.
Here you go. My report also.
And you said that was in Plan AA.
Yeah, double A, yeah, huh? Correct. But, you know, it was several versions of it,
Yeah.
but yeah. But I sent everybody the correct version last night, I guess about 9:30. And Jeff has it right there. And this
Yeah,
is the-
and I called it to Mr. Floyd's attention this morning. He did make that change. It may not be on your agenda item, but he did make that correction.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Floyd. That's all my comment, Mr. President.
Commissioner Epperson, you have another comment?
To the clerk, that we have copies of the map placed out in the foyer like we did previously.
We will for the meeting on,
Yes, that's a map for the stay permanently out in the foyer, correct. That's on the website.
yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to move for introduction Plan 6308, Plan 6309, and Plan 6310 for introduction.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Gage Watts that we move forward, 6308, 9,
All three of them.
and 10.
6310.
And 10. Okay, Mr. Clerk, you can vote.
Okay, and that motion carries with 9 in support and 3 absent.
I think you didn't vote on
I missed my vote.
that. Add.
Mine would have been a yay, but it's
We
That
need
would
to
have been
add
so-
Commissioner
So
Young.
let the record reflect that would be 10 in support with 2 absent. Still carries.
Commissioner Epperson? Oh, you?
we finished with that vote?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we move back into the regular agenda order.
Second. Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Epperson and seconded by Commissioner Ed Lazarus to move back in. Mr. Clerk? Vote.
All right. And that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. That brings us back to the regular agenda. We were at visitors, so we have no scheduled visitors today. So if you'd like, we can move forward to reports, where you have an administrative report attached.
Okay, administrative report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The first item we have is we would like to just notify the Commission that the parish would like to use the construction manager at risk process for the new Walter B. Jacobs Park. It's called the CMAR process. And what the CMAR does is allow the parish to work with a pre-construction manager to solidify the design, the scheduling, and also have a guaranteed maximum price to minimize our exposure to cost increases. It also helps us expedite the project, as well as it allow the construction manager and the architect to collaborate on the project. All of this is with the goal of achieving savings on the project. But to participate, we have to seek approval from both the House and Senate Transportation Committees for the state. And so we will want to present that to those committees and just want to notify the Commission that we were going to seek approval for that. But more to come when we get more information about that. Also, just want to thank Public Works for helping out with the sandbags, and communications for getting the word out about the sandbags last week. We're still monitoring the levels, and if we need to make adjustments or continue that process, we will. On the housing RFP, we are just finalizing some questions. We should have those awards made by the end of this week, just recommendations. We only have 1 COVID case for the period. And then for detention, we have 20 in detention. 3 are OJJ, 3 are 17-year-olds, and there are 9 at CCC. And that concludes the administration report. We'll take any questions.
Okay, I see Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Administrator Brown, just a quick question on your CMARS process. Do we have the architect and engineer identified yet?
We have identified the architect, TBA.
TBA?
Yes.
Okay. And they were the ones that did sort of the pre-design that I saw that's in there?
Yes.
Is that who I, okay. And we don't have the engineer team yet?
No,
Or
not
the
the
engineer? Okay. And then on the Housing Trust Fund, those recommendations, they're gonna come back to here for final?
We will inform you of who received those, but there's no approval process for that. We will notify the Commission of who are selected in that process.
I thought the process that we set up was that in the Housing Trust Fund, that all awards would come back to the body for final adoption.
Let me research that. Our process, our normal process for all RFPs or the administration. So I'm not aware that we changed that process for the Housing Trust Fund.
Yeah, I thought when we set the enabling legislation up is that all awards that are made out of it would come back to this body, because there was some concern from members about who would get what. And I have consistently said, even as recent as our last work session, I believe, or the last one Dr. Wilson was at, was that I'd like to see them, and I think it is incumbent upon this body that we have, because I think it should be this body's prerogative if it's a grant or if it's a loan, if it's $1 million, if it's $500,000. I just think that that's always been sort of the expectation that we would have, and so I'd like to continue in that vein, is that this body would have weigh in on that process or the final. But that's had always been mine. We can go pull those records or pull those videos. But I've been intentional about chiming in on the RFP process to make sure that the commission still would be a part of the final decision making on.
Right.
on
Well,
the
let us
award.
look at that process, because as you know, the commission does not weigh in on RFPs and have final say on those. So we will look at what we have in that legislation and give us a chance to review it, and we'll bring that information back to you. I'm just not aware that we changed our processes in regards to that particular RFP.
Now, okay, well, I guess my question is there something that prohibits us from doing that, or has that just been the practice? But that's just been how we've done it. I guess that's where I'm trying to get to.
It just has not, it is not required.
Okay.
And it's not something that we have done, it's not something that we require, and if we start doing that, we would have to look at what we're doing for all our other RFPs. And right now, that is not part of our process, it has not been a part of our process, and I'm not aware that that has changed.
Okay, thank you for now, Mr. President.
Okay, since I don't have a speaker button, I'd just like to say too that I do remember some discussion along that line. I'm not sure what the result was, but I remember the concern. That takes us to Commissioner Young. I'm sorry. Commissioner Epperson.
Madam Administrator, does this incur additional cost?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mrs. Bryant. I have two questions. The first one is, I think you were probably at the meeting, the long-range meeting last year, where these three ladies and some other people came to address their concerns to us about redistricting for the city. And of course, we're all a little bit confused by it. But one thing that became clear in that meeting was that we don't supervise the registrar of voters at all, but that the Secretary of State does. And I think in that meeting we discussed, I don't know if there was a vote to ask you to do it formally, we discussed trying to get in touch with the Secretary of State or a representative to come and speak to us so that we could have somebody related to the authority in the room when we talk about these issues and sort of get clarity from a source we don't have accessible normally, and that's especially true since the Registrar of Voters declines to come and talk to us. Have we made any progress on communicating with the Secretary of State about that?
Commissioner, we communicated through the Registrar's office. According to the Secretary of State, the elections were handled through the Registrar. The Registrar did provide communications back. I will reach out to the Registrar again to get those explanations that were provided through email, I believe, on what happened in that election. And we'll follow back up on that.
What about with the Secretary of State's office? Could we speak more directly to them as sort of like appealing to the supervisor of our registrar?
Yes, sir. We can reach out to the Secretary of State.
Okay, I think it would be really good if a representative from the Secretary of State's office could come here and address the people of Caddo Parish so that we could maybe even get some answers from that office. And I think I see a lot of nods from our constituents who are concerned about this issue. So that is the first thing I wanted to mention. And the second thing I wanted to mention is there were some wild dogs around District 10, or where was it?
No, it's District
Oh, really?
7.
And, well, and, okay. Well, there's wild dogs everywhere. Not just there, there's wild dogs in my neighborhood. What is the state of our tranquilizer guns that would help us catch and subdue wild dogs faster? Are they available for use yet by CPAS, or are they still in limbo for some reason?
Mr. Clark can answer that question for you.
How y'all doing? Yes,
How are you?
we do have the tranquilizer guns ready. Hadn't used them yet. We went out to use one, but the dog broke containment, and we don't want to trank a dog out of containment because then we'll lose the dog and the dart, and drugs will be in the dart.
So are you saying that you only shoot at a dog with a tranquilizer gun if it's inside a fenced area already?
If it's in a contained area that we can contain, if it's close to a wood line or something like that, it wouldn't be safe to trank it, because if it breaks containment, then you may have a loose dart with drugs in it out in the community.
What is the concern about the dart? That like a kid is going to use the drugs in the dart?
It's possible.
Does that seem likely compared to the risk of a dog biting another person or killing another animal?
Well, the only time that we tried to use the dart, we still ended up getting the dog. So
You still end up getting the dog?
yes, with a trap the next day.
Okay. Well, for at least one of these cases, people lost pets because the dog was out longer than it should have been. Maybe not during that period between showing up with the tranquilizer gun and the traps, but anytime we have a wild dog on the loose, they can hurt a person, and I think that the risk of that is higher than the risk that somebody's going to try to recreationally use the drugs in a tranquilizer dart or do anything else with a tranquilizer dart. So I think we should consider that policy carefully and try to control our dogs really, really fast when they're wild and vicious. And I know that's a day-to-day matter, but this is my opinion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Bryant, I just wanted to compliment you all on your plans to work together with the engineers and the architects, or I should say have the engineers and the architects work together to optimize our process and look for savings opportunities. I think that that's a best practice in this area, so thank you all for doing that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Gage Watt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Bryant, you mentioned the sandbags, and I just wanted to say thank you, to the administration, Carlos Dodson, the teams that swiftly responded to the need for the sandbags in the South Lakeshore community, all around the Cross Lake area. So I really appreciate you all taking care of that. I also had a response to some of the citizens and what they were asking, as well as what Commissioner John Paul Young response was about who should be involved and who has the real answers. We know that every vote counts. It's a priority for me, and their concerns are as well. Even though this is redistricting about the city, this is a state issue, and we don't want to just pretend like we're just passing the buck around. To get a representative from the Secretary of State's office is a great start. We also need to get the clerk of court here so that we can address those issues that are here locally and to find out a real resolve for them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You have that then.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Not to sound like a broken record, but I was going to bring this up, so thank you, Commissioner Watts and Commissioner Young. In regards to what our constituents are saying, on top of getting somebody down here from the Secretary of State, the constituents are asking for an audit. They're asking for voting records and for someone to come down here. And I agree with them. It's one thing to hear another public official come from a different entity, come down here and maybe field some questions, but they have proof. They have real verified proof that I would like to see how we would go about hiring a third party, contracting a third party to pull the facts so that we have outlined in black and white the actual data of the irregularities that happened in the last election, so that when we do have the Secretary of State come down here, that we lay it on his desk and we say, these are the irregularities that the constituents want answers for, so that each issue gets answers addressed, and so that we are doing our due diligence that we owe to our constituents, and that we're hiring this third-party entity to do this. Somebody needs to go find the facts. They've done this, but sadly, I don't believe that down south is going to listen to the facts that they have, because they don't have a unified voice like we do from the power of this horseshoe with a third-party entity that's coming with that information. So I don't know if I have to call a long-range meeting so that we can appropriate some funds for this third-party entity, or if you guys can do that out of discretionary funds, but I'd like to see that data so that when they do come down, that we have the facts of what actually happened in the last election, and that they can address each one, not just the Secretary of State, but also our local ROV.
Right, well, we would have to work with the Secretary of State's office to conduct any audit. That data is not our data. So we would have to work through their office to determine if an audit or any audit that could be done. So the first step would be for us to contact the Secretary of State to try to get a representative here to express, so you all can express your concerns and see whether or not something like your suggestion can be done, but that's not something we can just demand.
Okay, and then, you know, we're the one that appoints the registrar of voters, so whomever we have to hire to do that, if we need appropriate funds, let me know, we'll work towards that.
Yes, sir.
In a lighter issue, I agree with Commissioner Watts, the Shreveport Volunteer Network worked, they called out, and Ms. Bryant, thank you for allowing them to do distribution for sandbags in the storm. It was well needed. And then CPAWS, I don't see them out there, but they came out in full force in that issue that happened in off of Lakeshore. I think there was 5 trucks, and I saw like 10 different CPAWS employees running around chasing those dogs. So thank you guys for doing that. I saw social media chatter saying that you guys don't do anything, and I said, you guys, no, they're out here. I see them. So thank you guys for jumping into action and taking care of that. Thank you, President.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Bryant, I've pulled up the most recent amendments to the Housing Trust Fund that we did. And I'm reading 19-76, on receipt of an application, the parish administrator shall refer the application to the Housing Trust Fund Technical Committee for its review and recommendation. The Trust Fund Technical Review Committee shall report within 90 days to the Parish Commission and Parish Administrator with its recommendation regarding any application so referred. So I'm just saying that it has always been my sort of it's always been my practice to make sure that the commission body is included in any of our processes. I can't control what happened before I got on the commission, but I'm definitely one who, since I've been here, wanted to make sure that the commission is a part of certain things. And so I know that this was one, as the author and amender of this legislation. I can speak from definitely the legislative intent is to have whatever recommendations are made to the commission to be able to work with. So we can work on this. We can get together offline, but I just wanted to put that
Yes,
into the record. But I just
Yes, sir, Commissioner, we will continue to look at that. As you know, there were some changes made to that, like I think the technical committee was removed from the process. So as I said, we will review, and then there's debate as to whether application RFP. So allow us that time to get with legal, look at the legislation, and determine what has been changed, what still remains, and as I said, as to what the process would needs to be as we go forward.
cool. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Carlton.
First of all, I would just like to thank Animal Control. The call that I had received from concerning animal control at the time had already been answered, and the citizens that I was working with, particularly, she was very elated with what had occurred. Secondly, I also called Animal Control in reference to something that was going on in my community as well, and they immediately responded to it. The thing that I would like to really talk about right now, though, is the parish orientation that I received just last week. And it was so profound for me looking at the entire parish and the directors, because they share so much information. It's something that I think actually should be shared with the entire community, because again, the people that I work with, the different directors, finance, HR, legal, on and on and on and on, there's so much information, so many good things that are going on. And as we know, no organization is perfect, but the thing about it is that I was really, truly impressed with some of the things that were going on. And I think every citizen in the parish should have an opportunity to see this same type of orientation on an ongoing basis. And I'm not saying it has to be every weekend, things of this nature, but whatever is available concerning all the different directors. I think it would save a lot of questioning that we receive up here on an ongoing basis. And the thing is, again, just knowing the different point of contacts that the citizens can talk with as well. Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to Commissioner Gage Watts for the second time.
Thank you. It'll be real quick, Mr. President. I just wanted to also thank Director Travis, Director Kelvin Samuel for answering that call swiftly. Commissioner Chavez mentioned when he got there how they were already on the scene, and I was actually on the phone with them. So I don't know what happened prior to me getting that call, but they did respond very quickly and were at the scene to take care of those issues. So I just wanted to publicly thank them also about that. And as it was also mentioned, there are dog issues everywhere. I wanted to get an update, Travis, on the report on Crosby Street about the bulldog, pit bull.
A dog issue on Crosby Street.
Uh-huh.
I can research and get back to you. I'm specifically not tuned in to that particular call, but I can research for you.
Okay, I'll give you a little history on it, and Director Samuel has it also. It's an abandoned property.
Okay.
I think that there are some squatters that are actually living in that abandoned property.
Okay.
They
I'll
have
research.
some pit bulls and some issues.
I'll research that.
Thank you. That's it.
All right. I have a final comment. I do want to appreciate Animal Services too, because when that situation came up in District 7, it really concerned me because of some of the accidents that has happened with dogs mauling kids and older people who actually gets out, and it appears that they handle that pretty quickly and rather efficiently. So my hats off to them. The other thing is I wanted to say a word of appreciation to our parish workers during the flood. We did wind up having a declaration of emergency, but fortunately we did not have to deal with too many issues, and it appears that it's going to be raining again, but I don't think it's going to be as severe as before, but we will still be on guard for anything that may happen. That takes us then back to our clerk.
And we do, is Mr. Clark?
I believe there's an update, master plan update. Is that?
It's, I was looking for, oh, there he is. So we are at the master plan update now. It looks like Mr. Clark is making his way to the front.
All right, Mr. Clark. Front and center.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, if you didn't hear me when you, I thought you were coming up, but it looks like.
I'm so sorry. I had to go out and get me a coat. I was getting cold in here. I think that we've been meeting with the long-range planning committee, trying to make determinations on the steps and directions that we want to take in reference to master plan. We have some ideas, and we propose some of those ideas, but until we get a concrete direction from you as the commission, we are sort of in a holding pattern. We have some things that we're doing with the Unified Development Code to make it more congruent and more revealing of the activities that are occurring in the unincorporated areas, but that's where we are at this point.
You made mention that you were waiting for something from us, legislation or what?
Well, we've had some discussions. There have been, one discussion was that the Caddo Parish Commission would send out RFPs, determine, select a consulting firm to do a master plan. One thought was that there would be a parish-wide unincorporated master plan. So we're just waiting. We're gathering some information for the Long-Range Planning Committee, but we can't take any steps until you all authorize us to take some steps.
Okay, administration, are you all waiting for us to create some legislation for you to move forward, or is it's in your all's court? We're trying to find out something from Mr. Clark.
I don't think this has anything to do with your administration. It has to do with us meeting with long-range planning.
Okay. All right, well, long-range planning?
We'll make it happen. We met last week.
Yes, sir.
So we'll,
And
we
Dallas,
have some
something's
other
not
stuff to
happening.
address, so I'll call a meeting. I'll get with you, Director Clark, and, I mean, if I may.
Sure.
And then we'll get it on the books as soon as
Yes,
possible.
I mean, we're fine. It's like I said, we were just having discussions, which would work best for the parish, whether we would take some initiatives or with the Parish Commission, Long Range Planning Committee take those initiatives. And we were just waiting to get some directives from you all and not getting beyond our authority level.
So am I to understand that you have those directions now, or you're still waiting?
We're still having conversations with
Okay.
the Long Range Planning Committee.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from the commission? I have Commissioner Epperson.
That was down for the administration report.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, Mr. Clark, I know we discussed doing some kind of, what's the name, but I don't know that we ever approved anything to formally withdraw from the city's master plan, did we?
I think that the Long Range Planning Committee, and they'll have to share that with you. It's not my role to share that with you. We're considering a couple of things in reference to how we would address the master plan issue. And I was just sharing that we were not taking any steps until we agreed on the process that we would follow.
Right.
And we were providing some technical information to them, and that was where we were.
Right, but I just think that I thought that we were considering withdrawing from the 2030 Great Expectations Master Plan, but I don't think that we ever did. And so I think we should also, for those of us who are urban inner city commissioners, I think that we should continue to be updated on that one, but I don't recall us withdrawing.
Like I said to you, Commissioner Jackson, and the commission, the city of Shreveport is updating the 2030 Great Expectation Master Plan. And the city of Shreveport is paying for the portion of the Great Expectation 2030 Master Plan within the city limits of the city of Shreveport. I had made some recommendations to this body, and you all had not decided to update the portion of the Great Expectation Master Plan that deals with the unincorporated area in the 5-mile planning limit. So we're just
Well, I
we're
mean,
just in a holding pattern until you
yes,
all
sir.
decide.
Well, let me just say this: I'm not so much. I think whatever's going on in the 5-mile area is going to be that. I represent an urban area, and so if we need to be participating in what the city of Shreveport is doing, I'd like for us to be considering that as well, because I don't like this sort of bifurcation that we're doing. You got the city over here and the parish over there. That's just not. That's not what moves a region forward. And so I'll be asking whatever we do at the Long Range Planning Committee I'm not saying that we have to be married to what the city is doing, but there are folks on this body where 90+% of our district is in the city limits, and I think we should be participating in that. I do not like this sort of we're over here and they're over there, because that gets us nowhere, particularly from folks who are looking at us. And so we have to work together on all things. So whatever we need to do, Mr. Chairman, whoever is chairing that committee, I'll be there advocating that we do both, that we are working with the city on the Great Expectations Master Plan, but we're also working on whatever it is our responsibility for the 5-mile planning area and unincorporated, or whatever it is that the new legislation requires us to do. But there are some of us who still have a vested interest in what's going on in the city limits.
And I think the city might be interested in you making some financial contributions to the updating of the master plan that deals with the city.
Yeah.
That's always been a point of contention that
Shouldn't be. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
President.
I know Commissioner Hopkins, but addressing that issue of investing in the master plan, I was going to ask you the question, do we not participate from the parish, especially since we do have urban, most of the commissioners are urban commissioners? Have we ever done it?
And I think you need to reflect back on what House Bill 697 did. Prior to the enactment of House Bill 697 and Act 294, what the things you're saying were totally accurate. But once that legislation was enacted, there is a separation in the city and the parish. We are no longer one regional planning limit. The city's planning authority just goes to the city limits, and we provide those services for the city of Shreveport. We are under a contractual agreement with the parish to provide administrative services for the planning limits. So things have changed.
Okay.
And that's what I was going to
Hopkins.
point out, that House bill basically separated us in that portion. Now, we still fall under the resolution we passed to accept the 2030 master plan until we do our own plan. And that's the key, is that we have to do a plan. And figuring out how we're going to do that plan and the cost of doing that plan, we haven't come up with that yet. And that's what the long range has been talking about at the end of last year, and now we'll begin to talk about again the committee this year.
Well,
There's a master plan. The parish has to have a master plan. The city has a master plan, and actually each one of the municipalities are supposed to have the way the law is written. Now, not all small communities do. And in the process of having a parish plan, then all these cities and towns and villages, they all kind of fit together in one way or another. And that's the key. But Shreveport will have their own plan. They're doing their own plan now, and that House bill says they have to do their own plan. And we're not involved in that because we were taken out.
Well, maybe it cleared up my confusion, because I've always thought the city of Shreveport was in Caddo Parish.
And it is.
And if we are representatives of those districts that are within Shreveport and have no say, then there's a problem, in my opinion, with that, unless we somehow find out how we're going to participate. Because if not, then we may as well not exist as it relates to this planning process. I mean, commissioners that are urban commissioners may as well not exist. Or this government.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, but I think that, like Commissioner Hopkins is saying, that the recommendations and the enactment of the Great Expectation 2030 Master Plan is still active until you take some form of action to create your own master plan, or we can continue to bring you reports on what's happening with the Great Expectation 2030 Master Plan. Just wanted to share with you that, because of that legislation, and I think we've all been confused to an extent with that legislation, but we pretty well understand that things drastically changed in 2022. And with that change, we've just tried to adapt to those changes and do the things necessary. And as you notice, I attend every meeting of yours, as I've always done, to ensure that we are receptive to any concerns that you have and any actions that you would like for us to take.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask Commissioner Chavez if he would look into that and see how we participate as a parish in this. And if we're not gonna be involved, then so be it. But that's still a confusion to me.
I'll report back my findings, President.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I would ask us to, particularly some of us up here, to put our fiscal conservative hat on and our small government hat on, because what I hear is a lot of duplication around this master plan. We got the city got a master plan, the parish got a master plan, city gotta put out money, the parish of Caddo gotta put out money, when everybody could be putting into a pot for one big plan. And I'm in favor of small government and fiscal responsibility, and I hope that I can get some others to follow along with it. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, if there's no other comment on item 7.2, we will go to commissioners' remarks. Get on the board if you have any communication reports. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. On 6305 and 6307, I had two comments on this on our agenda. I know last year we passed some legislation that we were trying to reduce the ask of NGOs throughout the calendar year unless it was an emergency. And I saw these two come back up. And I know one particular, I think it was the 05.
Don't you mean 06, Commissioner?
Was it 06? Okay, thank you for the
6306
clarification.
and 6307, is that, I just want to, is that what you're referring to?
The two NGOs,
Yeah.
one of these NGOs was actually the point that we talked about was that this was going to be the last one of last year, that we agreed it kind of slid through the cracks, and we said, look, we'll go ahead and appropriate the funds for this one now. But next year we'll make strict rules for ourselves that we adhere to our rules, so that we don't open Pandora's box, so to speak, when it comes to NGOs. That unless it's an emergency, which things come up, that we would adhere to our strict NGO rules. But however, we're back in the second month of the year, and these are back on here. So I didn't know if it was an emergency and these are on here for a reason. Just trying to get some clarification on that. Thank you, President.
Okay.
You want me to answer that, Mr. President?
Yes.
Since I am the
It
author of
appears
those
that your name, you're the author on 11.2. Go ahead on, Commissioner Johnson.
So, to make it simple, on 6307, they never received that money in 2022. So, since they never received it, never got it, they want to roll it over to 2023 in order to get that one. And on 6306, they had about $1,400 that was left over from 2022, and they want to roll that over to 2023. And then there was, they wanted to also apply for 2023, but they never got a link. That was a problem, that if the organization didn't get a link, then they wasn't able to apply through the NGO process. So they got money late, they didn't get the link, so therefore, and there's some more organizations that are out there that didn't get a link. So this is another problem we had with this going all electronic in 1 year and not doing a hybrid. So these are some of the problems, or the gaps from 2022. And there's some more, just letting you know.
Okay, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to respond to a public comment that we received about community gardens. The commenter, it's commenting citizen, I don't believe is here right now, but she stated that community gardens that were located only in majority black neighborhoods were divisive. And so I just wanted to respond publicly. We don't have a policy of putting community gardens only in majority black neighborhoods. We put them in a lot of places, a lot of schools, a lot of other neighborhoods. The requirement that we have in our very generous attitude toward community gardens, which has really pleased me, is that when somebody applies from some neighborhood and they want to do a community garden and they seem like a legitimate, responsible party, we go ahead and do our best to give them funding no matter what neighborhood they're in. So if somebody from a non-majority black neighborhood wants to come and apply for funding from this source or from the Green Infrastructure Fund that we set aside, they should do that, and they'll be given a fair hearing and hopefully a generous allocation no matter what neighborhood they live in. And so I think that there is really just no truth to the claim that community gardens of this type are divisive. Food is the thing that brings people together more than anything else. And we have 2 applications for green infrastructure funds to be used on our agenda today. One of them is in a very diverse neighborhood in which I live, which is neither majority black nor majority white nor majority anything. And another one is in primarily in South Highlands, but also along the parade route of the Crew of Highland. And that neighborhood is majority white. So I just want to point that out and correct the record and answer that constituent's concern. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding 6306 and 6307, in the cases of rolling over cash that wasn't used in 2022, I'm generally supportive of that idea. But with respect to people missing a deadline because they didn't get a link or had some technology issues, I'm not supportive of those types of applications. I mean, I've been telling people to apply in June for funding next year, you know, unless it's an emergency. You know, I think all these organizations are responsible for staying ahead of the process, reaching out to the parish proactively, and getting into the proper position in the process to receive their funding. Just a comment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. I wanted to make a comment too on the urban gardening piece. In terms of where the gardens are located, they are kind of scattered throughout our parish, especially in the urban centers, because that is where most of your food deserts are. And because in food desert, meaning that you have residents that is not within walking distance or a certain distance of a store that has vegetables and fruit. So I advocated that we can put one in every neighborhood. I would love to see that. For nothing else, it's for the nutritional value of our kids instead of eating all that canned food. So I don't agree with that either from that perspective. Okay, that takes us then, the Secretary.
Back to the, let's see, that takes us back to President's Report. If you had a President's Report today?
No,
Okay.
to Thursday.
We'll move forward then to old business. We have no old business scheduled for today, so that brings us to new business, where the first item you have is authorizing the introduction of ordinance number 6305 of 2023. That's an ordinance to close and abandon a portion of the drainage easement for One North Place subdivision and otherwise providing with respect thereto. That is in District 2.
Okay, that's motion by Commissioner Johnson and seconded by Commissioner Atkins. We can vote.
On the board.
I'm sorry. Oh, just to be on the board?
I'm on the board.
Yeah, okay.
Tim, could you come up? Could you explain this and make sure that some of the residents in One North Place don't know, think it's something else?
Yeah, I mean, did y'all have a map?
Yeah, we have a map.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the concrete ditch there several years ago, the actual ditch was not where the survey was actually done when they filed the plat. So the ditch is we got additional to put the ditch over here, and then we're abandoning the other part. So there's somebody who owns a lot is requesting to abandon it.
Okay.
So to build a house there.
And the ditch is a concrete ditch. It's the drainage ditch.
Yeah, One North Place, we concreted it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to go for the record.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So,
You finished, Commissioner Johnson?
I'm finished.
Okay, can we vote? Secretary? Please vote.
And Commissioner Gage Watts. It looks like it didn't register your vote. There we go. Thank you. And that passes with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. That brings us then to the next item, which is authorizing ordinance, and I'm sorry, I should say that is advanced to your Thursday agenda. Your next item is authorizing introduction of ordinance number 6306 of 2023, an ordinance amending the 2023 budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to provide an appropriation for Charles Johnson Ministries Incorporated and otherwise providing with respect thereto, from Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, just like I mentioned earlier, I think about $1,400 of this is just rollover from 2022 to 2023, and then the remaining balance is a new appropriation. And the reason why I even put it on here is because with us going to finance sending the link to the organizations, and if the organizations didn't get the link, it's not that the organization didn't want the link, it's that they didn't receive the link. And if they didn't receive the link, it's not on the organization's fault, it's on the parish fault, because the parish didn't send the organization the link. So since he didn't get the link, I was putting it in for an appropriation, and you can either vote it up or you can vote it down.
Okay, Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we roll over the $1,400 balance, or whatever that balance is, and award that to CJ Ministries. However, we do not approve additional funding for 2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second.
And if I may comment on my motion now that it's
Sure.
been made. I like CJ. I think he's doing good work. It's just a matter of trying to protect the process. I respect what Commissioner Johnson's trying to do as well, but in my mind, every organization is ultimately responsible for pursuing their own funding, and they shouldn't have to wait for a link from the parish. Just my view.
That's the only way to get the application.
They can continue. Well, we'll observe protocol.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Bryan, I guess maybe I need to talk with Clay, because I remember attaching an amendment that this would be done through juvenile. And was it not done through juvenile, or? Okay.
Good evening. Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon. I was checking actually with Andrew right now to see where that stands. I know we had some contact from CJ saying he had gotten an appropriation, a program that he wanted us to oversee, and then we had no follow-up with it. I'm checking back with him
Okay.
now. We haven't had any kind of follow-up
Okay.
that I'm
All
aware
right.
of.
All right. Well,
Okay.
appreciate you, Clay.
Yes.
So I guess my question, Administrator Bryant, is who is going to make sure that there's some compliance with it? Is that legal? Is that finance? Who makes sure we compliant at that point?
Commissioner, I'm not familiar with it, but I know it's not our practice, nor is it appropriate to appropriate monies outside of the normal budget process, like for a specific organization. This makes me think of another incident that I had to go testify about in federal court. So therefore, if there is something that Clay needs to be doing, he needs to send that through our normal contracting process if he has the budget, if he has the funds in his budget.
Right, because I thought what we did was we sent the money to juvenile. That was the motion. I guess we need to get clarity, Jeff, on what the amendment was. And I'm not saying we got to get it today, because this is a two-reader, and I definitely don't want you over in federal court testifying on anything. Okay, yeah. But yeah, definitely want to make sure that, because that was my understanding, was that we sent the money to juvenile, and juvenile would basically either reimburse or pay those expenses. I'm okay with the substitute motion, because I do believe we worked very diligently. We sent staff and Jaleesa, am I getting it right?
That's correct.
Jaleesa, we sent Jaleesa through a pretty rigorous process to put that together, and then they came back and we looked over it. So I'm fine with, I had someone from Dress for Success call me last week, and I just had to tell her, I'm sorry, the process comes up. I've had an organization that's in my neighborhood, one of my neighborhood organizations, I told her that, we've established a process, and so I want to see the process work in this vein. So thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Clay, come back up, because I have a question. Commissioner Carlton.
Yes, in relations to this, the only thing that I have a question is about I always look at the matrix when it comes to the NGO. And the thing is, when I look at this particular one, I don't see who, what, I see who, but I don't know how many people are being served. I don't know if this ministry is actually hitting the target that they have for themselves, or if we actually have a target that we should be looking at prior to administering any monies. And it's not just for this NGO, but I mean, that should go forward for all NGOs, because the thing is, again, just giving money to give money, and I'm not saying that's the case, because again, you all been sitting here a lot longer than me. But the one thing I always like to see, when I give somebody some money, I want to know what I'm getting back.
Okay, Commissioner Carlton. I just want a clarification. Clay, did I hear you say that that we are appropriating this money to this particular entity, and you were asked to oversee it? Oversee the program?
So my understanding, I remember the contact from CJ because I've worked with him before. Andrew Randall met with him, and it was not clear to us what our role was to be. We were waiting to hear from CJ what the program was and what our role was going to be, and haven't had any follow-up from CJ. So,
but we're appropriating money to an entity, and they are engaging you as the parish to oversee it.
You know, it is a little like I think Ms. Frazier said. There are times that a program can come through, and we will oversee and make sure that the kid is court involved, that it's something that is going through juvenile. But it's not a program we designed, and so when CJ, I think, came to us with the program, we're happy to play whatever role we need to. We just haven't been told what that is yet.
I guess my concern is if the money is being spent with the organization and they have a program, then you're engaged, you have a budget.
Yes.
You got people that you're gonna have to bring and then implement it?
Commissioner, now for this particular one, the money was not budgeted directly out of juvenile. The monies were budgeted out of the Riverboat Fund. So in this case, it was just a matter, and Commissioner wants us to research to make sure, but it was more that juvenile was supposed to be involved in the process and consult with CJ in the program that was being developed, but not necessarily oversee the spending of the funds. But that's not, when you pass the ordinance, unless you made an amendment to transfer the funds directly to the Juvenile Justice Fund, that didn't happen. Now, we'll have to look at the language to see exactly what was said, but the monies were not transferred to Clay's fund and account that he oversees.
Okay. All right, that's confusing enough. All right, let's see, is anyone else? Okay, thank you.
I was in there.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Oh, I was in there.
I don't see your.
It had me for something.
Okay,
yeah, no, I
Jackson.
was just gonna say, to Commissioner Cawthorn's point is, that was part of the process that we set up. And so I think what you're looking for, is in that process that starts sometime in June. So I think that's why we set it up, because there were so many questions about who was getting what and what the performance was about it. And so that's why I'm saying, let's try to see that process through. Thank you.
That makes sense.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, Mr. Clerk. Ready to vote?
We're voting on the substitute motion, is that correct, Mr. President?
Substitute motion.
Yeah, this is the substitute motion to advance, this was a substitute motion by Commissioner Atkins. And who do we have as the second, Linda? Jackson, Commissioner Chavez?
Jackson. Either way.
Jackson? Okay. And it would advance to 1,400, and that's all.
Okay,
If anybody needs more clarity.
let's vote.
Still waiting for Commissioner Cochran. Okay, and that advances with 7 in support, 4 in opposition, and 1 absent. And of course, that is advancing to the Thursday agenda. That brings us now to ordinance, let's see, 6307, which is an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund to provide an appropriation of $20,000 for Louisiana urban gardening and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Young. Commissioner Johnson?
This is just a rollover from 2022 to 2023, no new monies.
Okay. Commissioner Atkins?
I just want to repeat myself. If it's a rollover, I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, President. If it's a rollover, I'm in support, but my only question is, what's the difference between the Louisiana Urban Gardening Initiative and Shreveport Green? Because I feel like they...
Two different organizations.
Is it the same mission, but two different organizations?
She does gardening and nutrition, and Shreveport Green does all kind of stuff. But her focus is typically gardening and nutrition and making sure people are eating healthier.
Because it sounds like they do the same thing. They have, Shreveport Green has the mobile market where they take the vegetables that they grow and they go into the food deserts and they give the vegetables for free, and they also have cooking classes. I would just like to see these organizations team up so we could get more of the food deserts depleted. That's all. Thanks, President.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, and just a question, Mr. Johnson. Doesn't this group work with LSU Extension also?
She has.
That's what I thought. I remember seeing the name.
Yeah, she has.
It's part of the group. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Chavez, just to clarify a point, as I understand it, Shreveport Green has a much broader mission than just gardens. Of course, they're big into cleanup and canopy and the whole. It's a much bigger mission. Thank you, Mr. President.
I would like to make a comment too, because this is sort of my pet peeve, and especially in gardening and in terms of nonprofits. If we could, if we can get more nonprofits to start teaching our kids how to garden themselves, I'm all for it. As the Bible speaks of too, that if you teach a man how to fish, then he'll fish for a lifetime. And if you only give him a fish, then he's going to eat just that one time. So we need to start looking at putting especially things like this into our young people's hand. And another thing, just to teach them about taking care of living things. There's so much death now that a lot of these youngsters, and you should look at some of the national programs and how they're taking these programs and going into areas with high crime and teaching these youngsters how to care for things. There's a shortage there. It would probably make juvenile justice system a whole lot better. So anything that we can do in this area, I'm all for. Commissioner Young?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Okay, we time to vote.
And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. We have already addressed the ordinances 6308, 6309, and 6310. So that brings us to authorizing consideration of Resolution 6 of 2023. That's a resolution urging and requesting the Louisiana Legislature to implement a social media campaign to educate the youth on the elements of and sentences for murder charges. And you do have a hard copy version of that at your station.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Johnson and second by Commissioner Jackson. Are there any questions? Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion to englobo and advance resolution number 6, 7, special resolution for Black History Month, special resolution for Go Red Day, special resolution for Orlando's Cafe, special resolution for National Panhandling Council and Divine Nine, special resolution for P2K. Please add me as a co-author for P2K. And special resolution Oh, well, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, there's a substitute motion to englobo, all right, wait, look like 11 point, here's where I start.
All the resolutions, basically.
Okay, that's 11.7, 8, 9.
11.7 through 11.13, I believe.
Okay. Okay, you've heard it. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes, please add me to 1111 as a co-sponsor and 1113.
Okay. And I would ask to be added to 11.9, 11.8. Let's see.
Say all of them. Your name gonna be on all of them.
Well, yeah, on all of them, please.
As a president, you know your name on all of them.
Commissioner Carlton?
Yes, I would just like to be added to 11, 12.
Okay. Anyone else? If not, it's time to vote.
And that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us then to advancing the authorization of administration to award green infrastructure funds to the Crew of Highland projects. This comes from the American Rescue Plan Committee.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Hopkins. Are there any questions? Commissioner Young?
I'll just say briefly, thank you, Mr. President. These are 2 applications that have been vetted by a licensed landscape architect here and our consultants, Hostel, Thwaite, and Netterville, I think I said it right this time, for compatibility with the green infrastructure requirements of the American Rescue Plan. And we've talked about it in the American Rescue Plan Committee recently and voted unanimously to move it forward to this body, and be happy to answer any other questions people have about it on Thursday. Thank you.
Commissioner Epperson.
Okay, infrastructure funds to Crew of Highland. What do they do?
Mr. President, may I answer that question?
Yes, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. Commissioner Epperson, the Crew of Highland is a nonprofit organization based on a Mardi Gras parade, and they have 2 projects that they want to do relating to green infrastructure in the Highland and South Highlands area. One of them is to do green infrastructure, water control features, and plant fruit trees along the path of the Mardi Gras parade route that they follow, which goes from the Madison Park area up to Highland Park and then back. And the second one is to do a larger green infrastructure project in Highland Park, which is a heavily eroded park, and it envisions creating pretty large-scale erosion control features and planting them with fruit trees and other useful and beautiful plants for the betterment of the neighborhood there, which is considered severely distressed. That's the synopsis of the project.
Okay.
That's
All right. Vote, please.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition. That brings us to advancing the authorization of, advance authorizing the administration to alter the scope of work on Fire District 8's American Rescue Plan application. This again comes from the American Rescue Plan Committee and essentially changes the scope from the original request of a training center to a updated request of a fire truck.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hopkins and second by Commissioner Atkins. Any comments?
The only comment is that they were wanting to do a training center, and because of the rising costs and stuff, they put kind of a damper on some of the stuff they wanted to do. But they did find in that meantime, they found some equipment they really need to replace, one being a truck, to be able to respond to emergency emergency response and some other equipment. So they just want to repurpose that. The chief did say today, if you need him to come down on Thursday and answer any questions, he would be happy to do that. So just let me know, please.
Okay, my only question is, if you repurpose it, do you change the amount?
We're just no, I think we're just changing the scope, and I'm not sure about the amount.
The amount will stay the same.
The amount stay the same.
Okay, so the truck.
He wasn't paying for the full center. It was
Well, I
only
was
a
gonna
portion.
say, I can't see a fire truck costing the same as a center.
That's how they found out they weren't really going to probably be able to do. This is revenue replacement. That's what they had intended to do originally, and it just rising costs right now is not making it feasible.
Okay.
So.
If there's no other questions, we can vote.
Commissioner Gage votes, it looks like, there we go, thank you. And that motion carries with 11 in support and none in opposition with 1 absent.
Mr. President, do you want the chief to come down on Thursday, or?
I don't personally.
Okay, move along. Our next item is advance authorizing the administration to change the American Rescue Plan projects. It's an action item that authorizes the administration to change the following projects. The Shreveport-Bossier Tourist Bureau Sports Commission reduces college football games by $195, festivals and events by $58,000, sporting events by $65,000, and adds Shreveport-Bossier Tourist Bureau Sports Commission at $318,000.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, based upon the consultant we have, these items are not listed as eligible for ARP. So the Shreveport-Bossier Sports Commission did have revenue loss, so this money will transfer over to them for revenue loss replacement.
So they repurposing it?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson.
So Sports Commission had eligible revenue loss of this amount?
Well, they had, because of the nature of COVID, the tourists, they through the Tourist Bureau, they had significant losses further. So you can do revenue replacement when an agency has losses. Those monies would then can be used to support these initiatives such as college football games and festivals and sporting events.
So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is this money going for them to backfill their revenue, or is this money going for events?
This money would go to the Tourist Bureau, and they can in turn use it for these type of events. Once it's sent for revenue replacement, if it's in the normal course of their business, then they can use it. It's just that it's not in the parishes, so we can't use it for football games, festival events, and sporting events.
Because I guess my concern is sometimes some of the events and stuff that takes place, like, Grambling them came over here to us because they felt like they wasn't getting a fair shot at the Sports Commission. Southern, some of those institutions, some of these organizations, some of these festivals, they come to us because they're not getting, they don't feel like they're getting what they need out of them. And I'd be okay with sending the money over there for them to support events if they were going to come back to the commission and say, here's what we're doing, here's an idea. But just writing them a check for $318,000, it's a little painful, not knowing what it might be used for, who it might be used for, and I just feel like, like I said, I don't necessarily, in general, GP have a problem with it, but I think some of the details, I think the commission needs to be a part of some of the details, because You know, if Grambling comes here to play football next year, I think the general practice has been to give them some billboards. They go buy some billboards for them. Well, what about game operations and stuff like that? Southern as well. And I know Grambling has put out a schedule. I don't even know if we're on it, but I just would, you know, and I just use that as an example. Festivals as well, you know, a lot of neighborhood festivals that go on. They try to get to the bureau and stuff for festivals and events. So, you know, I second the motion. I'll be okay with advancing it, but I might, if this is going to be used for events, I might be open to an amendment come Thursday to say that they have to come back to the commission to consult with us about whatever they're using it for. And is this just the 1 year? Is this like one of those multi-year? Is this going to be a one-time deal? Is this going to be one of those multi-year funding deals?
This is one time.
So one time. So they're gonna spend all of this in 23.
Well, now, I can't answer for that.
Okay.
But the appropriation that we make would be in 2023. Now, what they report back to you all or what you require, it may go multi-years, it may not. They
So
would have to.
we could require them to split this up over the course of some years. Could we? Because
You can make amendments and stipulations that
Okay.
you would like to recommend to them.
Okay. Like I say, in principle, I'm fine with the principle of it. I just kind of think some detail. There may be some more. I mean, we might have needed to have talked about this at the ARP committee, but I mean, in principle, I don't have an issue with it. I just would like to see a little bit more details about what specifically is going to be done. I think a lot of organizations have come with specifics, and this just doesn't have that level of specificity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, on the Sports Commission, well, these are some events that we had talked about we wanted to do. Under the plan, we can't do it. The Sports Commission can qualify to do it because they would have this money to go backfill into another pot of money that they could take out to actually do it. There are some things that we're working on as the Sports Commission board. You do have a representative, which is myself, and also the Parish Parks and Recreation. There's 2 members of the board. There's a game that we're talking to HBCU about, and from the parish, we was going to actually put some money into it, but can't use this money that way. If you take it to the Sports Commission, you can actually use it for that particular reason. I think that the Sports Commission will oversee, the board will oversee that the things that we want to do will happen. But at the same time, those organizations have to apply. If they don't apply, then they can't get it. As for the ones that I know about, I'm telling them to apply because we're about to send this money over there. And so they should be able to get it. The board, the Sports Commission itself, the staff has changed. So it's being reorganized. I think it works better for the 2 parishes that work together. And just like you talk about mistresses that you wanted to see and formulations, that's already in place at the Sports Commission. It's based upon a number of criteria, and so that's what they follow, pretty much. For its festivals and events, that'll fall under the Tourism Bureau, which basically when we do the corporate endeavor agreement, if those are some events that we want to put in there, we put it in the corporate endeavor agreement, and they sign off on it, and it happens. It's not really something that we got to go in depth on, because when we gave money to the DA's office and the other agencies, we didn't tell them what they had to do for it. But, you know, if you got a board in place and the board knows the direction that you want to go, then that's what we'll go in.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Chavez.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we send this to, I'd like to say the Economic Development Committee, or it could be the NGO Committee, so my motion can be a committee of the President's choice, because I feel like this is a large amount of money. And I would say long range, but that's my committee. I'm not going to send it there. I just think we need to do more due diligence. We have Director Clark sitting out there for the MPC that gets about $300,000 a year, and I feel like he's sitting there watching us just throw this money around, and he's asking us for some increased funding or for current level funding to do what they're doing. And we're like, well, we don't have this money over here. We'll give this to the Sports Commission. Maybe they could do something cool. And we're talking about we want a new 2030 master plan. We want amendments. We need people to do some work. I think it sets a bad precedence. So I think we should look at this in a committee and say, what are the things that we need from Caddo Parish that qualify for those ARP funds as opposed to just that? Oh, President, I need a second on my motion. I apologize.
Oh, I'm
okay,
sorry.
Commissioner Young?
Yeah, Commissioner Young.
Okay. So that's my motion is, President, I'd like to see this go to a committee where we can further decide, is the Sports Commission the best case scenario, or do we have some outlining debts that the parish, like we have an issue with crime. We have an issue that I know Commissioner Watts wanted these cameras, and we said if the funds are available, here's some funds. If we spend all the funds and they can't go to the cameras, well, how do we decrease the crime if our goal is that? So I think we should look at this more. $300,000 is a lot of money. Thank you, President.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Am I on? Well, okay. My only question is, it's already been to a committee. It just came out of the ARPA committee. So I guess that's.
We didn't address this, though.
Yes, we did.
It didn't go to committee?
I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
When I'm on the board, I'll tell you.
Okay. I'm done.
Yeah, well, we didn't address this in ARPA, I don't believe. Okay, Commissioner Johnson, back to you.
So these are funds that were already allocated from ARP. The ARP committee met on this. It's that the consultant said you can't do it through parish dollars, through this particular way. We can't say we're gonna sponsor a game or support a game. We can't do it that way. So the way to do it is through the Sports Commission. So the dollars have already been allocated. It's just how you use the money, which will have to be through the Sports Commission. So it's not like we're just taking some money and saying, okay, well, we've already approved this. It's just that this is the only way that we can actually spend the money.
Okay, I think for the second time, is it Commissioner Jackson?
First time.
First time?
On this motion. Yeah, the reason why I second the motion, and I don't have a problem one way or the other, I guess I'm trying to figure out, is the $318,000 spoken for? I guess that should have been my question. Are there events out there that these dollars are already attached to?
No, the way these are listed, these were listed on the listing that Finance provided at the last meeting. And the status at the last meeting for the football games, festival events, and sporting events stated that they did not meet the criteria. And so we sent that list out to all commissioners, and Commissioner Johnson contacted us and asked us to put an item to then take those items. Well, he inquired, could the Sports Commission do this? And we said yes. And so that's how this happened. We did provide information that these three were not eligible. And so we're just transferring it to the Sports Commission to still do that. But there are no specific events that have been.
Right, and so that's where my concern comes in. I don't have a problem using them for these events, but my concern comes in is how do we know that North Caddo is going, if they've got a festival, or if Southern Hills, or if Greenwood has a festival, how does this body know? Cedar Grove, they do a parade over there with CARE. How do we know that they're going to get their fair slice of these resources? And I tell people all the time, I'm parochial, and so everybody up here is parochial. Crew of Highland may have some need for the Highland Jazz and Blues Festival. I don't know. And so what I'm saying is, how do we make sure that we're just not saying here's $318,000 and we never hear about it again? Until it's all spent, they say, here's your report, and we're like, well, we didn't know about any of these events. And then how do we also know, because I'd like to see, and I've always been this way, is these funds should supplement, not supplant, what's already taking place. So, are we gonna have this process go where they remove what they normally would have done for those events and just say, okay, well, we're gonna use the parish money to do that now? But how do we embellish what we're doing and make them bigger and more successful over the course of some years. So that's all I'm saying about some more clarity. I'm not married one way or the other. I do still think that there needs to be some more clarity here. I do think that maybe the ARPA committee is where this conversation probably could have started. If there was going to be a change, I didn't know there was going to be a change, or I would have put it on our committee meeting last week. So I just think some more details are at least needed about the nuances of this. If it was going to be done through the parish, we would have gotten those details just like we're doing with the Crew of Highland here and the Fire District 8, where we authorize those things. Now we won't have that, and that's what I want the commission to understand is if we just send this to the Sports Commission, no requirements, anything, it's just they're just going to spend the money. So that's why I'm saying there either needs to be an amendment attached to this to get some more specificity, or we need to send this to committee to have some additional conversation. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Call for the question.
Second.
Okay, the question has been called. It's been moved by Commissioner Johnson and seconded by Commissioner Gage Watts. Let's vote.
Okay, and that passes with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent. So
Okay, there's a
that-
motion on the floor for substitute motion. Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Chavez and seconded by Commissioner Jackson to send it to a committee of the president's choice. Is that what I
Yes, sir.
understood it to be? Okay, let's vote.
All right, and that motion passes narrowly with 6 in support, 5 in opposition, and 1 absent.
Okay, given the fact that I will have this privilege, I'm going to send it back to ARPA. Okay, let's go forward.
Okay, and then that brings us, the next item is authorizing a discussion on juvenile justice millage for the fall ballot.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Commissioner Young, and seconded by Commissioner Chavez. So, Commissioner Young?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to put on our agenda an opportunity for all 12 of us to give our opinions about this question, which I think is an important one for the finances and crime prevention in our parish. And we can talk about it more on Thursday if we move it to Thursday. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
I'd like to make a motion that we respectfully move this conversation to the Juvenile Justice Committee, where I was going to announce we're having a meeting Thursday, but I don't know where we're going with this. But if I get a second, I don't know.
I'll second. I don't see it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Johnson and seconded by
Commissioner Jackson.
Jackson, I'm sorry, by Commissioner Jackson, and seconded by Commissioner Atkins, to amend this motion.
Yeah,
What was
Mr.
the
President.
motion?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was going to say, I spoke to Commissioner Young about this, and I respect his eagerness to want to get the 12 of us to chime in on this. I do know that the report was sent over last week, and so everybody should have the report and recommendations. I was going to announce during our communiques and committee reports that we have scheduled a committee meeting this Thursday. This Thursday afternoon for noon. Noon, lunch provided, so please come down, and it'll give us an opportunity. I do understand the timeliness that you want to get behind this. Same here, and so I don't want to rush the conversation either, but I don't want you to think that we're going to drag our wheels on it. So you have my word on that we'll start this conversation starting Thursday.
So, am I understanding you said that the motion was amended to send it to juvenile justice, and then you are inviting the 12 commissioners?
Yes.
To the meeting?
And Jeff will provide y'all with lunch.
And Jeff will provide lunch. Okay, let's vote.
All right, that motion carries with 9 in support, 2 in opposition, and 1 absent. to continue that conversation in the Juvenile Justice Committee meeting. That brings us, and of course to provide lunch. That brings us to communication committee reports.
Okay, any more communication?
Before we
Commissioner
leave
Epperson?
this on the juvenile justice, I understand there's a resignation, Ms. Yates.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that resignation has been accepted. So does that mean the spot is open?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pardon? Oh, it's from a specific district?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
all
sir.
right. Okay, that answered that question. Okay, now, I want to get on communiques and reports before we
Juvenile
leave.
justice.
Okay. That's what we are.
We're in communiques right now.
Oh, we are? Okay, well, let me get back on.
Right, but this doesn't have anything to do with that. Oh, well, I was trying to get a clarification because Juvenile Justice Committee, I know Commissioner Jackson chairs that, and then we got a juvenile something else committee which Ms. Yates was on, which has nothing to do with this.
That's advisory. That's
It's
an advisory.
advisory, but that's not what this is. And what were you saying now, again,
Okay,
Commissioner
well,
Epperson?
let's grab that away. Okay, then,
Yeah, that's
you
what I
say
was-
we had communication reports?
Yeah,
Okay, I'd like to be on that. Nobody else tonight.
okay. All right.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Going to schedule the ad hoc committee on the crime lab and I think public safety and some other issues this Thursday, the 9th, 2:00 p.m. Mr. Clerk, would you announce the persons on that committee?
Absolutely. The members on that one are Commissioner Epperson is the chair, Commissioners Young, Cothran, Chavez, Gage Watts, Atkins, Jackson, and Burrell are also the members of that committee.
And I've gathered some information that I will forward to the committee members so they can peruse it prior to Thursday's meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Any other communications? Commissioner Atkins.
Yes, Commissioner Epperson, I just wanted to present my apologies. I have a Centenary Finance Committee meeting that exact same time on Thursday, so I'm sorry I won't be able to attend, but I recognize the importance of this subject.
Okay. No problem. It's not gonna be solved overnight in that first meeting.
Okay.
Anyone else? If not, Mr. Clerk?
That brings us to consent agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. There's no citizen comments, late arrivals.
There,
Okay.
I did not receive any requests for.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Sir, did you have any?
Really pretty.